Now, before you jump to conclusions about what I mean by using men, I want you to hear this interview.
She just seems like a bit of a gold digger, don't you think? She's got no money, she comes from Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and the only thing she has is this influence over men and this way of manipulating them with this sexual power. That's her only form of currency, so she's using it to make a better life for herself. She's a badass. That's awesome that she's not afraid to do that. And I was like, oh my God, you're right, that is awesome.
This is what Margot Robbie had to say when she was questioned about playing Naomi Lapaglia in The Wolf of Wall Street, a character many called a gold digger. But what she says here flips that label on its head and shows exactly why power isn't always what you think it is. Using men was never just about money or manipulation, because I hate to break it to you, darling, but men have been doing that unapologetically to us for centuries. But this isn't about becoming them. It's about understanding power, value, and leverage, and learning how to use them on our terms. And that's exactly what this video is about. 5 proven tactics and psychological game plans that let you use men. The first hack to make men work for you is to be a princess, not a queen. Sounds ridiculous, I know, but hear me out. You see, the difference between a princess and a queen isn't just status, it's strategy. A princess is in trouble, waiting for someone to come save her. A queen saves herself. That's why in Frozen, Elsa is the queen, but Anna is the princess. Now here's the paradox. Being a queen sounds strong and independent, and it is, but being the princess is often what draws people, especially men, to step up. Because when you look like you need saving, you give someone the chance to feel like a savior. It's not weakness, it's psychology. It activates what behavioral psychologists call the hero instinct, that deep, evolutionary urge men have to protect, provide, and feel essential. And when you make someone feel like they matter to your story, they'll move mountains to keep that feeling alive. Look at every fairy tale princess. Snow White, Cinderella, Aurora. Their helplessness isn't just a trope, it's a trigger. It signals innocence, softness, and need. That signal tells a man, you make me feel safe. You complete the picture. And when a man feels irreplaceable, he becomes invested. But here's where most women get it wrong. They ask a man for help in all the areas where they cannot help themselves. The hero instinct in a man only truly kicks in when you can do it all by yourself. Because real power doesn't come from dependence, it comes from selective dependence. You have to be capable enough to survive on your own, but choose to ask for help anyway. That's the difference between playing the game and being played. People often say, don't be afraid to ask for help. But when you ask for something you genuinely can't do or afford, you're putting yourself in a position of real need. And that shifts the dynamic to being toxic or even abusive. True feminine leverage comes from this paradox. You could do it all, but you let him do it for you. For example, asking him to get you that really expensive bag when you can clearly afford it yourself. Because when you can afford it yourself, you're not asking because you need it. You're asking because it lets him feel useful and special. It's symbolic. It's psychological. That's the art. The soft power. When he helps you with something you could have done alone, he isn't just giving, he's investing. Every small act creates what psychologists call a reciprocity loop. The moment he does something for you, his mind justifies it by saying, I am doing this for her because she's special. And once a man believes this, guess what happened next? His ego investment begins. It's not about money or favors anymore. It's about identity. He starts to tie his sense of worth to your happiness. If you're smiling, he feels successful. You become his mirror, the place where he measures his own value. Because when he feels responsible for your joy, he'll fight to protect it. And that's not manipulation, that's mastery. But remember, balance is everything. If you overdo it, you cross the line from strategy to submission. Because the psychology of attraction is simple but powerful. Men fall for women who make them feel like heroes. But ironically, it's only when the woman doesn't actually need saving. However, here's where most women stop short. They master softness, but forget strength. Because yes, knowing how to be a princess gets men to act. But knowing how to be a bitch, that's what makes them respect you. When I say be a bitch, I mean commanding your space, with self-respect that can't be negotiated. Here's the psychology behind it. When you're overly nice and never challenging, you're subconsciously teaching people, especially men, that your comfort is optional. And once they sense that, They'll test it, not because they're evil, but because that's human nature. People push where they can. Men love women who are kind, but they respect women who have boundaries, because boundaries signal power, and power is magnetic. When you assert yourself, when you say no, when you disagree, when you stop over-explaining, you trigger what psychologists call the scarcity effect. People value what isn't always available. You stop being predictable, and suddenly, you become irresistible. Be sweet one day, unavailable the next. Give attention, then pull back. That tension keeps men guessing, and curiosity keeps them chasing. Like Taylor Swift said, boys only want love if it's torture. It's not chaos, it's contrast. It keeps the chemistry alive. And about that so-called bitch face, science actually backs it up. Studies show that faces showing subtle dominance or authority are perceived as more confident, and therefore more attractive. A woman who looks unapproachable is not going to be everyone's girl, so pursuing and winning her over itself is the prize. However, power isn't just about how you act. It's about how others perceive you. You've learned how to make men move for you. You've learned how to make them respect you. But what if I told you? There's a psychological glitch in the male brain that gives you a hidden advantage, one most women never use. Here's something you might not have noticed, but it's crucial if you ever plan to work, negotiate, or build alongside men. Even when you're clearly just as smart, just as skilled, or even more successful, most men still won't see you as competition. When a man sees another man, his amygdala lights up, the part of the brain that processes threat, hierarchy, and dominance. Instantly, he's in comparison mode. Who's stronger? Who's got more money? Who's more successful? But when that same man sees a woman in that same position, his brain deactivates that competitive mode. Somehow, men assume, subconsciously, that you need guidance, support, or assistance, even when you don't. Psychologists call this the benevolent bias, the male tendency to underestimate women while simultaneously wanting to support them. And here's the twist. That's not something to fight. It's something to use. Men will often go out of their way to give you advice, connections, or even opportunities, not because you asked forcefully, but because they don't see you as a threat. So once you understand that men instinctively underestimate you, here's where things get interesting. You can resist it, or you can redirect it. That's where the third strategy comes into play. Being a bimbo, acting dumb. And no, I don't mean being foolish or pretending you're genuinely clueless. What I'm talking about is strategically performing softness in intelligence, using the perception of dumbness to your advantage. Let me explain. We've all been there. You say something wrong, make a mistake, or miss a detail. And instead of tensing up and defending yourself, you laugh lightly and say, "Oops, I'm so dumb. I don't know how I did that." And somehow, it works like magic. Why? Because it flips the power dynamic of error. Instead of appearing defensive or threatening, you appear harmless, even endearing. And men, especially, respond positively to that. Because men are biologically and socially conditioned to excuse mistakes in women who appear gentle or self-deprecating, because it activates their protector instinct instead of their competitor instinct. I can't even count the number of times I've gotten away with saying something completely off or embarrassing simply by playing that card. Whether it's being late, slipping up in a meeting, or saying something that doesn't make sense, a soft smile and a playful, "Sorry for being so dumb," awkward and innocent, changes the entire tone of the interaction. You'd be shocked at how often this works in professional settings too. If you're in a meeting and stumble through a point, instead of panicking, just breathe and say, "Sorry, I think I got my numbers mixed up. I'm a little slow today." Soft and genuine. Watch the tension dissolve instantly. Now, I know what you're thinking. Won't this make them think less of me? Maybe in the long run, yes, if that's all you ever do. But in moments where you're cornered, when the goal is to de-escalate and move past the moment, this hack works like a charm. And the best part is that men absolutely can't use this strategy because it backfires on them. But for women, it's a psychological loophole. And in relationships, it's even more potent. That lighthearted, dumb girl energy activates his instinct to guide, protect, and take the lead. The secret, again, lies in control through choice. You're not dumb. You're choosing to appear so for a purpose. To soften tension, to redirect emotion, or to strengthen his attachment. You've learned how to influence with psychology. You've learned how to set boundaries, play soft, and win smart. But there's one more layer to this, the most primal and underestimated form of power, appearance. Because no matter how evolved society becomes, biology still plays a louder role. And whether we like it or not, looks do matter. And before you roll your eyes, this isn't vanity. It's evolutionary psychology. For thousands of years, the human brain has linked physical attractiveness with health, fertility, and vitality. Clear skin means good immunity. Symmetry indicated strong genetics. So when men are drawn to beauty, it's not just superficial, it's instinctual. Their subconscious reads it as safety, health, and good genes. That's why beauty activates the brain's reward system, releasing dopamine, the same chemical tied to desire and motivation. But here's what's even more interesting. Modern research calls this the halo effect, a cognitive bias where people assume that if you look good, you must be a good human, not just in character, but in intelligence, competency, and trustworthiness. In other words, beauty isn't just an aesthetic advantage. It actually shapes how people perceive everything else about you. But here's the twist. Being beautiful isn't about fitting into someone else's checklist. It's about owning the energy that makes you feel beautiful. In fact, research shows that basic grooming rituals, simply taking time to clean, refresh, and present yourself, increase how attractive you feel. And that boost in self-perception makes you actually look more beautiful to others. Yes, society may call it shallow, but psychology says otherwise. When you honor your appearance, you're reinforcing your self-image loop, telling your brain, I'm worth being seen. That's not insecurity, that's self-respect. And the fact that men are drawn to it, that's just evolution doing its job. You're not using your beauty to seek approval, you're using it as an extension of your power. Because when you combine intelligence, awareness, and self-presentation, you become unforgettable. And here's the truth, if you want to know how to use men, you need to get one first. And that starts with knowing exactly how to flirt. I break that down step by step in this video right here.